Hey, y'all, welcome back to Turnbark Time. I'm the Turn,
I'm the Bark.
and we are going to be here a long time, a lot longer than a lot of y'all thought, because this is season 4, episode six. That's what I thought, episode 6. Oh, man, do we have a topic for you. January 9th, that was this Monday. 2 collegiate powerhouses met on the field of battle. And let me tell you, Bark, it was one of the most boring national championship games I have ever had the displeasure of watching. 65-7, a rout by the Georgia Bulldogs over the TCU Horned Frogs. Now, why are we talking about college football, you may ask? Well, it has come to our attention that college football, Barker, is broken. And let us explain. There are new rules in college football about when players can transfer schools. Also, going along with that transfer are the new rules for the NIL. And now the NIL stands for name, image, and likeness, meaning any depiction of a player or anything like that, they can be compensated for said thing or for said deal. Endorsement deal, I guess, is the term I would use. Now, the transfer portal is a newer thing. I want to say 2018.
I don't know if it was modified.
Modified, thank you. That is the right term.
I guess there's always been the ability to transfer.
Yes.
The big thing that has happened with the transfer portal, and my information is coming from, we haven't been very good about throwing our sources in there, but
that's also bad.
This was from the USA Today. So the transfer portal isn't some kind of like it's not like Rick and Morty, you jump into some other dimension.
Portal gun.
I watched one episode and was like, I can't handle this. Anyway,
ride, Bark. You can watch it in any order.
It's a database for players that essentially would like to move from one college to another college. And the big change, it used to be that if you transferred from one school to another, you had to sit for a year and you essentially were punished for like jumping programs. And the idea was to try and keep student athletes at the same program unless there was a massive disagreement. People still transferred, like Russell Wilson transferred from NC State from NC State to Wisconsin.
Yep. And that was a graduate transfer, which was where you had played out your time there. And you were basically saying, like, the program wanted to move on. You had graduated as a senior, but you still had a year of eligibility left.
Yeah. And so they've taken that penalty away. So one time in your collegiate career, an athlete can transfer from one university to another university and not have to sit a year. So that's been one of the big changes in how the transfer portal works. So it's confusing because there's D1, D2, and D3 college football, but really in D1, there's 2 different D1 football programs. There's FBS and FCS, and some of you might be left wondering, well, what WTF? Like I don't know which one's which. What does that mean?
Exactly.
So what you need to know is that FBS, which is the football bowl, I think, series.
Yep.
Is like big boy Division I, like UW, WSU, Pac-12, Power 5, TCU, all of those programs are FBS. And then FCS is really kind of like Division I AA, which is the championship series.
So it's Eastern, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, go Jackrabbits.
Montana, Idaho.
Our first one.
So, but anyway, I think the biggest problem, like, I'm a Wazoo alum, if you didn't know that. So go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. One of my biggest frustrations was watching their bowl game, right? And so, like, college bowl games start on December 16th.
17th, I thought, but close
16th.
enough. Close enough. Yep.
It was a Friday.
But
they run from the 16th, so almost for a full month. Yeah. Because they go from the 16th to the 9th, which is a little bit less than a month. And it's really, I guess that's inaccurate, because after the beginning of January, after New Year's Day, there's not a whole lot other than the playoffs.
But it's still a considerable amount of time. It's still a long time.
Yeah, and it used to be like, I remember being younger, and it used to be like this great, like, it was like awesome. Like my dad would, well, back when my dad had DVR, he would DVR like every bowl game, every single one, and then would sit and fast forward through all the commercials and like individual snaps and just watch like the snap, like snap to tackle, snap to tackle, snap to tackle.
Yeah.
If somebody got up by too many scores, like the national championship game, he would have stopped at halftime and deleted it.
Yeah.
And moved on to the next game to watch. But it was good football. Like for the most part, it was pretty competitive football. Yeah. And the problem that I think is vexing it is the transfer portal opens once the championship is set for the fall championships. So by December 5th, they know who's the top 4 football teams that are going to make it into the 2 semifinal games. And so at that point, the transfer portal opened this year on December 5th, which is a week and a half before the bowl games are played. And so what happens is for like Wazoo, they had one linebacker who he's an NFL prospect, so he didn't play in the bowl game. You're not going to fix that problem. We're not arguing about trying to get guys that are going to the NFL to play in the bowl games.
Yeah.
That's up to them, right? Their body's on the line. Their body is their commodity. They're deciding to not risk it for the biscuit of the NFL.
Exactly. Yeah. You're talking millions of dollars.
Yeah. However, Wazoo lost 2 more linebackers and 2 of their top receivers to the transfer portal. So when they went to play Fresno State, Wazoo played abysmally because your linebacking core is like the heart and soul of your defense. And they were literally like taking guys, like one of the guys was predominantly a special teamer, and so like he's been promoted to a starter. They leveled down a safety to play linebacker. And it's like, this is not what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like the culmination of your season, rather than like, this is not even the team that we fielded and put on the, not even the team that we put on the field against like the University of Washington at the end of our Pac-12 schedule.
Yep.
So that's the really big frustration. And like even Jake Dickert, who's the head coach of the Cougs, was talking about how even throughout the season, he was saying because of NILs, people are tampering. It's like they're not talking with players because that's a violation. But what people are doing is like they're talking to family members of players, or they're offering NILs in the middle of seasons rather than offering them. Normally the NILs come out before a season or at the end of a season once you've played.
Yeah.
It's just kind of little sus when you offer them in the mid-season. And it makes it, I guess college football has always had a disparity. There's the Power 5 conference, which is the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, and the Pac-12. But within those conferences, you have schools that are the haves and the schools that are the have-nots. And I guess Wazoo is a have-not. Yep. Oregon State is a have-not.
I'm not.
Right? They're small agricultural school or smaller college universities in agricultural settings because that's what they were built to do. Right? They were built as the ag schools, and that makes us a little bit less attractive. Like Corvallis isn't as nice as Eugene, and Pullman struggles to hold a candle to the amenities of Seattle.
Yeah.
That's
well, and the market too. Debatable. Like the biggest thing is like when you look at like television markets and everything like that, like Eugene ends up like getting Portland as its market, and there will be people who argue with us, and that's fine. Seattle obviously has its own market and television and everything like that. Another point that I want to dive in real quick with that bowl games is this is also a lot of times that happens. Like sometimes a team plays a team they've played before, but a lot of times it's teams who never meet. Right? Like it's like this year was Washington and Texas. And like, unless Washington and Texas schedule a non-conference game, they're not going to play each other. And so it's kind of cool to see like, okay, like Texas is number 20. Washington, I think, was number 12. And to see them play and like, okay, who actually is number 20 and who's number 12? Are they actually 20 and 12? Or because we always compare numbers, but we never see it. So that was another thing I wanted to jump in on that. But yeah, so like the size of the markets and stuff like that also plays a factor into that.
Yeah, and like the crazy thing is, and there were some sports writers that were putting like articles out. I don't have a specific one like that I looked at, but they estimate, one of the articles I looked at said that there was 1,600 players in the portal for football.
1,600.
And at least probably, I think the last number I saw was like in the 830s, but probably about 900 of those. So a little bit over half were Division I FBS players, and then the other ones are FCS players, so guys that are trying to go from Eastern to level up. Or for instance, you had there was a defensive player from Jackson State.
Yeah,
where
it was
Deion
with
Sanders
Colorado.
was.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and that's
they followed his coach.
Following your coach that probably recruited you to play at Jackson State.
Right.
But it's just when Coach Dickert talked about it, he was like, not only do you have to recruit kids to come to your school, you have to recruit kids every year to stay at your school.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's almost on the verge for those of you who are old enough and have seen the terrible sports movie Basketball.
Oh, great.
The frustration of the two guys in basketball is that all the players, they always move and they always change teams. And so a lot of us, that's one of the things that I think Aaron Rodgers has going for him, even though he seems to be in a tedious relationship with the Green Bay Packers coaching staff. But he's been in Green Bay his entire career.
Yeah.
And there's not very many players that do that anymore. And now we're starting to see, because of the no-sit rule and, the one-time change school, NILs, you're having these players. I saw an article that was saying that I think they said the average player at A&M, Texas A&M, gets $85,000 in NILs. How can you compete with that? You know what I mean? You're literally taking and putting a player over there. And I think that, I don't know if that counts their athletic scholarship for tuition, or if I think that's all beyond.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So they're making as much as almost like a 10-year teacher with a master's degree, picked out, to play college football.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people for a long time have said one of the biggest problems is that the highest paid public employee in most states is college football coach.
Yep.
And I mean, they're not wrong, honestly. And I mean, I'm a head football coach at a high school. So, I mean, we're not making that money.
Yeah. But when we talk about that and we talk about the players, there are players where that NIL deal is a big deal. They come from an area that's not great. Their family has struggled. And so it has that. But then you also do have the, rich getting richer, where you have people and they're just making those transfers. What's interesting was when I was doing the reading and stuff like that, and I was looking at, there are we talked about the window for the portal, and hold on with my dogs. Hey, shh. See how long that lasts. But with this, the portal opens, and you get 45 days from December 5th to put your name in that portal. You have to tell your school that you want to transfer, and then they have 2 days to put your name in the portal, and then after that you can get contacted. But there are some rules about when you can put into the portal whenever. So one is grad transfer, Russell Wilson's was the example we used. You can go into the portal whenever you want, and the other one is if your coach moves. Right. So Deion Sanders, so all those Jackson State players, when Deion Sanders left, because he recruited them to go to Jackson State, and now they no longer have that coach, they can put their names in the portal whenever they want because of that. So there are these instances. So I don't think I'm not going to argue against NIL deals. I just don't. I'm with you. I think the timelines need to be restructured.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that needs to change in my mind, is the timeline should happen after the national championship, because we were chatting about this. We went to the Seahawks game with my fearless former leader, Scott Ramsey.
And
my son, Phil Frost.
Yes, there you go.
And his right-hand man. But he was talking about, well, if you play in the bowl game, they don't know that they want to recruit you yet, but they're not playing in the bowl game, so there's no film to be recruited off anyways.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of a matter, it's just really frustrating, because you're not really seeing the number 12 and number 20 teams play. You're seeing whoever's left over after the seniors, or whoever's entering the NFL draft isn't playing.
Right.
And whoever's unhappy and wants to go somewhere else. And it's really, this kind of segues into my second, what's broken with college football, is that, you touched on it, is that it's all about TV markets. And so conferences we have the Power Five, which are teams that automatically, well, it used to be automatically got berths into the marquee bowl games, the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and I think there's one
Bowl.
Orange Bowl.
Orange Bowl, thank you. That's the one I'm thinking.
Fruit. Yes. But now we're on the verge of creating like 2 super conferences.
Yep.
Because
like the NFL.
If you didn't know, Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, which Texas and Oklahoma are like the pillars of the Big 12.
Yep.
Which the thing that makes me go right now is the Big 12 has 10 teams and the Big 10 has 14 teams.
Yep.
So they have numbers in their names, but the numbers are completely irrelevant to the number of teams in the conference at the moment.
Hey, numbers are hard.
Yeah. That's why Alabama changed their requirements so you don't actually have to take classes to pass. But
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Sorry, Miss. She doesn't watch. We have a new science teacher who's from Alabama. She actually went to Alabama, so
Roll Tide.
She can say Roll Tide. She's not a bandwagoner. She's legit.
Yeah, she's dedicated.
Miss Lovett. Those dogs.
I know they're driving me bonkers. I'm gonna put them outside here in a minute.
But so like the Big 12 is losing Texas and Oklahoma, and those of us on the West Coast, we know that we are like USC and UCLA, the LA schools are defecting and going to the Big 10, which they try and make an argument that it's about academics and like that they like are going to have these research partnerships, and it's all fluff. It's all about college football TV money because you're taking where are they at? The Los Angeles schools.
Mm-hmm.
And like people always said when they tried to brought the Chargers back, is that the only LA? No, the Chargers and no, it's just the Rams. Right. Sorry, I was like for some reason like the Raiders. The Raiders.
Chargers did too. Well, the Raiders did play in LA for a bit too.
Yeah, but it's like people have always said like the biggest pro football team that plays in LA is USC.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that was when Pete Carroll was there with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and Sanchez.
Yeah, Mark Sanchez.
And Troy Polamalu. We know it's Polamalu, but
the head and shoulders.
So like they're leaving, and that's about TV markets. And then there's also been talk that maybe later down the line, because everything's fluid, is that maybe University of Oregon and the University of Washington are going to leave and go to the I think it was the Big 10 as well.
That was Big 12.
Was it the Big 12?
I don't know.
Maybe it's the Big 12 because the Big 12's hurting.
Yeah.
But like it kind of creates these like domino effects. So because the Big 12 losing Texas and Oklahoma will be the Big 8, they're offering membership to 4 teams. 3 of them are coming from the American Athletic Conference, which would be University of Central Florida, Cincinnati, and Houston. And then they're also going to take Division I independent BYU. So that's 2 Cougars in a conference that had no Cougars to now having 2 Cougars. I don't know. They're going to be the Big 12 will have 12 teams again.
Okay.
Right. But that again creates a problem where now the American Conference went from having 11 teams to having 8 teams. And so they went and offered 6 invitations to Conference USA. And they're literally stealing over half because there's 11 teams in Conference USA.
Yeah.
6 of them are going to join the American Athletic Conference, the AAC, which is kind of like low key, like the new age Big East. Yeah. But the Big East died and got cut up and sent to the ACC.
Yeah.
And
the Big Ten.
And so like University of Texas, San Antonio, the Roadrunners are coming from Conference USA to the American. North Texas, University of Alabama, Birmingham, UAB, which nobody actually probably knows that's what that stands for. It's just the UAB with the dragon.
Yep.
Florida Atlantic, Rice, and then Charlotte, the 49ers, which why you have 49ers in North Carolina, the Carolinas, I'm not sure.
The topic for another show.
But so literally like half of Conference USA is going to go to the American Conference. So then Conference USA is like, how do we get back to 10? And so they're offering membership to Independence Liberty and New Mexico State, who has been essentially kind of like homeless since the Western Athletic Conference went away. And then they're also going to add Jacksonville State, Sam Houston, and then in 2024, it'll be Kennesaw State.
Oh, okay.
So like there's going to be like 134 Division I FBS football programs. And like I was like, how do you become like it seems like more and more schools are joining the conferences.
Yeah.
So like are we going to cap it at some point? Because the entry level right now is that your football home attendance over 2 years has to average, your home attendance has to be greater than 15,000.
That's pretty low.
You have to have more than 15,000 people show up. You have to have 16 varsity sports,
Okay.
6 of them men and
Okay.
8 of them for women.
Okay.
And that's to try and I think to balance
Title IX. Yeah.
yeah, Title IX, because football's going to have 55, a lot more scholarships
Yeah.
than a lot of other sports. You 60% of your football schedule has to be against FBS opponents.
Okay.
I'm shocked that it's only 60%.
That is because I feel like they usually only play like one maybe FCS school. And then
And you generally play the FCS at home so that they
Right.
can make money.
Right.
Like you don't often see like UW play Eastern in Cheney. Yeah. And then you have to have 5 home FBS games as part of that. That's the third kind of bullet point. You have to use 90% of your football scholarships, and you have to offer at least 200 athletics scholarships, like total.
Okay.
Like that's all it takes.
Yeah, I was like, I don't feel like any of these are very hard for any university. Like I went to Central, go Wildcats, and like 15,000 people at a Central football game would not happen. Right? Like that's just not going to, you're not going to get, you don't have the student population, you don't have anything like that. So it's like, okay, that's where I feel like that's the hurdle, is the 15,000 people. Like you have to be, but for a lot of those schools, that's nothing. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just
like Eastern could easily go up and play FBS. The scholarships might be another thing for them, but yeah,
and I think, if I remember right, the FCS bar has to do with the number of scholarships or something like that. The bar is very like the requirements for FBS and FCS aren't that far apart.
Okay.
And I think it has to deal with the percentage of scholarships being used out of their football allocation.
Yeah.
And if their allocation is high enough, like they can play up essentially.
Got it. Okay.
Like if they're using like all of their football scholarship or something, they can like opt up.
Okay.
But like it just seems really weird to me because like we keep growing and we're not adding. Like it used to be exciting. Like I remember like when Appalachian State
beat Michigan.
Like who is it?
Michigan,
right? And like everybody was like, holy moly, like let's bring up App State. And so no, Appalachian State is in the Sun Belt, which is out of the 10 major conferences, the least of the 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're not even dominating. You have people who've come in, like I'm just looking at the list, like from my college football is very much NCAA 14 is like the limit.
Love
but
it.
like thinking about like you have James Madison, who's elevated, Coastal Carolina, App State, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Old Dominion, Southern Alabama. Like those guys aren't relevant. No offense.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's not like those are huge movers and shakers that are coming up. And like when I saw Jacksonville State, I was like, wait a minute, does it mean Jackson State? But no, it's Jacksonville State.
Oh, yeah.
So there'll be 2 Gamecocks.
Yeah.
Right. Get a Bearcat, another Bearcat in there too. Sam Houston's Bearcats.
Are they the Bearcats?
Yeah, well, because there was a quarterback from Wazoo who wasn't getting playing time, who entered the portal and is probably going to be the starting quarterback as they transition from FCS to FBS. Which I mean, like props to him. If you're not the starter and your time's only so much, go play.
Well, that's like the big one in Washington right now is Brock Heward's son, Sam Heward. Went to Kennedy Catholic, and then when Michael Penix said that he was coming back to the University of Washington, he was like, well, he's like, it's his team. Like I'm not going to beat him for the starting spot right now. Like he's entrenched in there. And so I need to move on, which was interesting because that was another quote that I wanted to throw in there, that his dad, Brock Heward, who made a name for himself at the University of Washington, he called his dad for advice, and his dad said, we didn't have the transfer portal. He's like, we just gutted it out. We toughed it out. And, and he goes, yeah, that played into my decision, but I have this and I can use it. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I guess part of me worries that it might bleed down into high school athletics with state associations like the WIA like becoming more lenient about transfers and stuff, which is just not going to teach kids loyalty and how to build character and like build a program. It's just going to be to try and catch the hot, catch the team on the rise kind of a deal, which I don't agree with at all. But yeah, I mean, what the problem is that like, so you have kids, the bowl season essentially is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Because you have kids, like, I guess kind of summarizing what we've said here for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I assume that that's a generous underestimate of how much time this is taking.
26 is where you're at.
See, there you go. Like the transfer portal is too early.
Yep.
And it guts teams that should be playing more of those guys in their bowl games. So we can get, I guess, and maybe that's me being greedy as a fan of college football going, I like to watch a better football game, a better quote unquote product, which I mean, I just feel like the NCAA is becoming more of an amateur league, like a more like developmental league than it is like college football, where it used to feel a little bit more pure, even though it probably really wasn't, but we can just pretend.
Well, and I like some of the facts. It's like, okay, you got Stetson Bennett, who just led Georgia to back-to-back national championship games with like dominant. But what's interesting that you make that comment about developmental league, he is projected as maybe a 7th round pick. Maybe, most likely a drafted. So it's like the story still kind of exists, but it's not. It's not the hero story, right? Like the guys, the no-name guys, and you see it. I feel like you see more of it in basketball, which I know we're talking about football right now, but like basketball is that guys do transfer and everything like that, but it's like you can have teams that upset and then all of a sudden the guy's name gets on the map. Whereas like football, that's a lot more difficult to do. And so you're transferring to get to that hot hand. Now, I guess I would say that just to play devil's advocate for a moment for the bowl game thing is that, if I know that I don't want to play, at whatever school, why am I going to go risk myself in a bowl game, and then get hurt and then no team's going to want me, and again, like it's that round and round thing, right? Like it's where it should be amateur versus professional. And so it's because I do see their side of it, but you see too many cases of it being like, that's a little, like you said, like it's a little suspicious when all of a sudden like, there's a team, shush. It's a little suspicious when another team, all of a sudden, like that guy just ends up on that team. And there's like, they have an NIL deal and they already have all this. And it's like, where did you get all that? So, hey, shh. Pardon me while I step off camera for a moment. All right, we're back. It'll probably be a little quieter now.
Okay. Yeah, and then my other pet peeve, and maybe I'm reaching that point in my life where I'm becoming an old fuddy-duddy.
Oh, you're getting cantankerous?
Yes, old and cantankerous. Like I want historic matchups. Like I want, like the Big 12 has always been Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like the Pac-12, the Pac-10 went to the Pac-12, and now we're losing like
4
people who've been there from like since I think like the Pac-8 days.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like it conferences don't mean anything. It would be like us making high school sports leagues, and like my team, we're in Longview, Washington, like playing a team in like Bellingham for some reason.
Yeah, and that's a yearly matchup.
Yeah, in every sport. And so like it's a waste of, well, maybe it's not because they're going to make the TV money, but like it seems like it's a waste of time and resources to send student athletes further away from school for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I didn't use this, but it's here. I think this is old. It's from like 2013, so the numbers probably aren't super great. But like they estimate that the SEC schools make $56 million each off of like media.
Okay.
The Big 10 makes 48.9, the Big 12 44.5,
Okay.
The ACC and the Pac-12, 39.
Okay.
And so that's the Power Five. And once you get to the Group of Five, which is really just like the others,
Yeah.
the American, they make 15,
Okay.
15 and a half. Mountain
Yeah.
West, they make 10, 10.2. Conference USA, 9.6. And then the MAC and the Sun Belt is about 6, between like just under 7 to 6.5 mil.
Well, it's like you think about it in millions, that's millions of dollars. That's still a lot of money, but it's not compared to like just the SEC. Like you can add up a bunch of those schools to meet what the SEC makes.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. Actually, I think if you do that, what was your highest out of the other 5?
15.
Yeah, I think you can add them all together and not make what the SEC makes.
Let me do quick math. We're history teachers. We're keeping our shoes on. So that's 12, 21, 21, and 25. Gets you just north of, you're still shy of the SEC if you add the other 5. Now, if you add if it doesn't take into account the independents, which if you add in the independents, you could probably get there because Notre Dame's probably flush with cash.
Right. But at the same time, like even then, like even if you add the fact that you have to add the independents to get to what one conference makes, 5 other conferences are combined, that's a problem.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just, in a way, sometimes watching like the Mountain West and watching the MAC and the Sun Belt is like better because it's I don't know, in a way, like those guys kind of like get to be more, there's more ingenuity that happens there.
Yeah.
You don't have just the super teams that you are getting at like Alabama and
Georgia.
But I just feel like we're kind of at the point where players needed to be compensated. Like that was the thing that needed to happen. We're just it's there's going to be an evolution in college athletics, and I guess I'm old enough that it bothers me because it's not what I grew up watching.
Yeah, it's a super dynamic change for sure, and having the like I'm interested to see how it plays out. Like, are we gonna do all this shifting, all this changing? It's like class all over again, just not listening. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the chorus of singing in the back. So I'm close to getting up. I know we're done. We're almost done, so I don't need to do it. Anyway, the point that I was making is I'm interested to see, are we going to make all these shifts? Are we going to have Oregon and UW go all the way to the Big Ten? Are we going to have the LA schools go to the Big Ten? Are we going to have the other schools go to the SEC, add to the Big 12, right? All for us all to do this and then realize that this is stupid and reshift, right? Like, are we going to reset? And it's like, oh, no, the move is going to be, oh, I have this great idea. Oregon and Washington will be on the West Coast with the LA and California schools, and they'll make a conference. And it's like, no, like, is this what we're doing? For real? Like, I know you want to, and I can't blame Washington, Oregon, the LA schools, the Texas schools, and things like that for portions of the SEC. Like, wanting to go get those bigger chunks, I can't blame you. So.
But that's why we will forever have Pac-12 after dark, and you'll have Wazoo or UW playing somebody, and if it goes to overtime, like on the West Coast, it almost goes like until midnight or past midnight, which means that on the East Coast, we're playing a college football game at 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's insane. Like you looked at like those bowls on New Year's, they ended at midnight. Like. Yeah. That's insane. That's not good football. That's kids having, and we call them kids. We understand we're not that much older than them, but like we have these athletes that are playing, and it's like, what the frick? Why are you? That's not a good time to. They don't play the Super Bowl then. They don't play like like I don't know. Call me, yeah. I guess I'm old.
Yeah, and it's just it's becoming more about trying to milk it for as much money as possible rather than, like, I guess just. It used to be, there's a lot of conversations about like what level of football do you enjoy watching because it's the most like quote unquote pure.
Yep.
And I guess as two older young people, we feel that the NCAA is becoming more tainted.
Yeah. That's the gist of what we're getting at. Again, we don't disagree with transferring. We don't disagree with NILs. We disagree with the timing and the structure, right? It was something that was super exciting, but I don't think it was thought through. I mean, I'm sure it was thought through, but I don't think it was. I don't think they have evaluated or reflected on what has happened because of these. So,
and the beauty of it is that it potentially could change moving forward because it changed before. So here's hoping. Yeah,
yep.
maybe we're the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, that's
y'all like, subscribe, and send this to all of your other middle-aged or middle. What is this? Your older young people or younger middle-aged people,
whatever you want to call it,
whatever demographic you want to send us to, and our tens of followers.
Love it.
Yeah. I'll try and do a better job tagging this episode too. See if we get some more clout.
Hey, we'll just have some fun with it. Again, if you enjoy it, shoot us a link or shoot us a comment on Facebook or Instagram and just say, like, if you want to hear something special. We can preview next week's episode, which I am so excited about. So next week's episode, I'm not going to say anything other than this. We will discuss the greatest beer run in history. And no, it was not from my time at Central. So that's all I'll leave you with. Bark, anything else?
I am good.
All right. Until next time, I'm the Turn.
I'm the Bark.
And we're going to be here a long time. Have a good night, everybody.
Be safe.
And gosh darn it, you be well.